Right now, a massive storm train is locking onto the United States, and if you live anywhere between the Rocky Mountains and the Atlantic coast, what happens in the next 10 days could be the most dangerous stretch of weather we have seen all year. I am not saying that to scare you. I am saying that because 3 separate storm systems are already forming, and each one is carrying damaging winds, large hail, and the potential for tornadoes. And here is what most people are not talking about yet. Behind every single one of these storms, a blast of cold air is going to crash temperatures by 30 to 40 degrees in less than 24 hours. We are talking about cities that will be in the mid-80s on Tuesday afternoon and waking up to the low 30s by Wednesday morning. That kind of temperature swing does not just make you uncomfortable, it creates the exact atmospheric fuel that produces violent, severe weather. Now, before we go any further, I need you to do something. Drop a comment right now and tell me what city and state you are watching this from. I am going to be covering specific forecasts for over 270 cities across the country in this video. And if you tell me where you are, I can make sure your area gets extra attention in the next update. Seriously, just type your city and state. It takes 2 seconds. Here is my promise to you. By the 5-minute mark of this video, you are going to know exactly when severe weather threatens your specific region, how intense each storm system will be, and whether the cold blast behind it is going to bring frost, snow, or just a brutal wind chill to your area. But first, there is a piece of this puzzle that almost nobody is connecting, and it changes everything about how bad early April could get. Stick with me because I am about to show you the atmospheric pattern that meteorologists have been watching with growing concern for the past 2 weeks, and it just showed up in the latest model run stronger than ever. Let me set the stage. Over the past 7 to 10 days, most of the country has been sitting under a relatively quiet weather pattern. We have had a few hailstorms popping up across the Ohio Valley and the Northeast, and a couple of severe weather events sliding down from Canada where the jet stream has been dipping over the Midwest. But for the most part, if you have been enjoying nice weekends, outdoor barbecues, maybe getting the garden started, you have been living in a brief window of calm. That window is slamming shut. What is about to happen is what meteorologists call a major pattern flip. Right now, there is a ridge of high pressure parked over Texas. That ridge is the reason the southern plains and the desert southwest have been baking in 90 and even 100-degree temperatures for over a week straight. Places like Phoenix, Arizona have been hitting the mid-70s to low 80s day after day, and Death Valley has been pushing 80 degrees. That ridge has been acting like a wall, keeping storm systems locked up to the north. But starting this weekend, that ridge is going to shift eastward, and when it does, it is going to open the door for a deep trough to drop down along the west coast. That trough is the engine that drives everything. Now here is where it gets really interesting, and this is the part you absolutely cannot miss. This is not just one trough producing one storm. The models are showing trough after trough after trough dropping down over the Rocky Mountains throughout the first 7 to 10 days of April. Each one of these troughs is going to eject a separate storm system across the central United States. We are looking at a minimum of 3 major storm systems, possibly 4, all lined up like a train rolling across the country one after another. That is why meteorologists are calling this a storm train. And each car on this train is loaded with the potential for damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. But wait, there is something else driving this pattern that most weather channels are not explaining, and it is the reason I am particularly concerned about the second week of April. The polar vortex split. Yes, you heard that right. A sudden stratospheric warming event that happened weeks ago literally broke the polar vortex into 2 pieces. One piece has been hovering over Canada, feeding cold air into the northern United States, but the other piece is still rotating around the North Pole, and the data from the Arctic Oscillation, which is one of the most reliable long-range indicators we have, is showing that second piece is going to swing back around and reinforce the cold pattern deep into the middle of April. What that means in plain English is this: the cold fronts are not stopping after next week. They are going to keep coming wave after wave, potentially all the way through mid-April and maybe even longer. All right, let us break down the timing of each storm system because this is the part that matters most for your safety and your planning. I am going to walk you through day by day, and I need you to pay close attention to when your region comes into play. Storm number 1. The Monday and Tuesday system, this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, is actually going to be beautiful for most of the country. High pressure is going to build across the entire central and eastern United States. If you have outdoor plans, this is your window. Take advantage of it because the calm is not going to last. Saturday morning temperatures are going to feel like a breath of fresh air after this past week. Let me give you the snapshot. Up in the northern tier, Aberdeen, South Dakota is sitting at 25 degrees. Pierre, South Dakota, 25 degrees. Bismarck, North Dakota, just 18 degrees. Fargo, North Dakota, 21 degrees with light snow still falling. Minneapolis, Minnesota, 28 degrees. Those of you in the upper Midwest, you are still dealing with the tail end of winter, and honestly, it is going to feel like winter made a comeback this weekend. Across the Great Lakes, Chicago is at 33 degrees, Detroit 29, Cleveland 31, Milwaukee 30, Green Bay 26, Grand Rapids 29. These are not spring temperatures. These are more like early February numbers, and that dramatic cool down from the 80s we saw just 48 hours ago is exactly the kind of whiplash that sets up severe weather later. Now slide down to the Ohio Valley and the Midwest. Indianapolis is sitting at 43 with drizzle and low clouds. Cincinnati 41, Columbus, Ohio 35, St. Louis 41, Kansas City 44, Springfield, Illinois 37. Remember, Springfield was in the 80s just yesterday. That is a temperature crash of more than 40 degrees in less than 24 hours. Down in the southern plains and the deep south, it is a completely different world. Dallas, Texas, 71 degrees, Houston, 74, San Antonio, 70, Austin, 71, Fort Worth, 71, Atlanta, 72, Jacksonville, Florida, 76, Miami, 81, Tampa, 76, New Orleans, 73. These warm temperatures are the fuel. All that moisture streaming up from the Gulf of Mexico is going to collide with the cold air dropping down from Canada, and that collision zone is where the severe weather ignites. Across the Northeast, you are chilly but manageable. New York City 52, Boston 44, Philadelphia 53, Washington, D.C. 58 with light rain, Baltimore 57 with light rain, Hartford, Connecticut 45, Albany, New York 34, Portland, Maine 36, and out west the Pacific Northwest is cool and quiet, Seattle 38, Portland, Oregon 39, but the desert Southwest is still cooking, Phoenix 74, Las Vegas 72, Tucson 72, Palm Springs 73. Now here is where the action begins. By Sunday evening, a low-pressure system is going to start organizing over the Dakotas. This system is going to be further north than what we typically see for late March, and that is part of what makes it tricky. Most people are not going to be paying attention because the center of the storm is way up near the Canadian border. But as this low deepens on Monday, it is going to start pulling warm, moist air northward at an alarming rate. Monday evening is when I want you to start paying attention if you live in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, or Illinois. There is going to be a sneaky, severe weather threat developing late Monday evening. The wind shear will be strong enough, and there will be just enough moisture pulled this far north to support large hailstorms and possibly even an isolated tornado. This is unusual for late March at these latitudes, so do not let your guard down just because it is not peak tornado season yet. By Tuesday, this system intensifies dramatically. The low pressure will be north of the Great Lakes, and a secondary low may develop over Texas and Oklahoma. This is when the severe weather threat expands to a massive scale. I am talking about the potential for severe weather anywhere from upper Michigan all the way down to central Texas. That is over 1,000 miles of real estate under the gun simultaneously. Here is the specific timing for Tuesday. In the upper Midwest, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and northern Illinois, your severe weather window opens around midday and runs through the evening hours. Large hail and damaging straight-line winds are the primary threats, but an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out. For Iowa, Missouri, and the Central Plains, the threat window is Tuesday afternoon through Tuesday night. This is where I am most concerned about a damaging wind event. The models are showing the potential for a squall line to develop and race southward, producing widespread wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour. In the southern plains, Oklahoma and Texas, the severe weather window extends from Tuesday afternoon all the way into the overnight hours. If that secondary low develops over this region, it could lead to isolated tornadoes in addition to the wind and hail threat. And here's an important detail. Tuesday is also going to bring near record-breaking high temperatures ahead of the storm system. The Great Lakes and the Central Plains could see temperatures surging into the low to mid-80s before the cold front arrives. That extreme warmth is like pouring gasoline on the atmospheric fire. More heat means more instability, and more instability means stronger storms. Do not skip the next section because I am about to cover what happens after this first storm passes. And honestly, the second and third storms might be even more dangerous. Storm number 2. The Wednesday and Thursday transition. After the Tuesday system pushes through, you might think you are in the clear. You are not. Wednesday, which happens to be April Fool's Day, is going to be a bit of a transitional day. The first cold front will be crashing southward, dropping temperatures dramatically across the Midwest and Ohio Valley. But there will still be scattered severe storms from 2 different areas. One threat zone will be along the deep south from Mississippi and Alabama eastward into Georgia. The other threat zone will be up in the mid-Atlantic from Maryland through New Jersey and into the Carolinas. Now here is the twist that a lot of people are going to miss. While Wednesday is a somewhat quieter day in terms of severe weather, it is actually a critical setup day for what comes next. Moisture from the Gulf of Mexico is going to make a hard push back northward on Thursday. The dew points, which tell us how much moisture is in the air, are going to surge from the 40s and 50s back into the 60s across the southern plains. That moisture return is the reload. It is the atmosphere reloading the gun for the next round. Thursday afternoon, I am watching the southern plains closely. Oklahoma, Arkansas, northern Texas, and possibly Louisiana could see severe thunderstorms developing as the next trough begins to eject over the Rockies. This system is going to be stronger than the first one. The trough is digging deeper, the jet stream winds at 18,000 feet are going to be screaming, and the combination of that powerful upper-level energy with the returning Gulf moisture is a textbook setup for significant severe weather. And now we need to talk about the cold air that is coming with this second system, because this is where the forecast takes a turn that is going to shock a lot of people. The Weather Prediction Center has already issued outlooks for impacts from April 3rd through the 5th, and they are showing a moderate level risk of heavy precipitation across a wide swath of the country. We are talking about 2 to 4 inches of rain across a large area stretching from Oklahoma through Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. And in the bullseye zone, parts of Oklahoma, northern Arkansas, Missouri, central and southern Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio could see 5 to 8 inches of rainfall. That is not a typo. 5 to 8 inches. That kind of rainfall in a short period is going to cause serious flooding. And if you live near rivers, creeks, or low-lying areas in those states, you need to have a plan. But here is where it gets even more intense. The cold front behind this second storm is going to be brutal. Temperatures are going to free fall. We are talking about going from the 60s and 70s to the 30s and 40s in a matter of hours. And behind that front, wind chills are going to make it feel even colder. The freezing line is going to drop all the way into the upper Midwest and parts of the northern plains. Frost and freeze warnings are likely across a huge portion of the country. And for those of you in the Dakotas, Nebraska, Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, there is a real possibility of snow with this system. Yes, snow, in early April. The national blend of models is showing accumulating snowfall across this northern tier, and while some of the ensemble members are showing just a dusting, there are a few runs that are showing a significant snowstorm. We need to get closer to nail down the exact amounts, but the signal is there, and it is not something to ignore. Now here is an important caveat. When you have a warm air mass colliding with cold air and the temperatures are right on the borderline, you can get something even worse than snow: freezing rain. If the temperature profile is just right, precipitation can fall as liquid rain and freeze on contact with surfaces. Ice storms are incredibly dangerous. They take down power lines, they make roads impassable, and they can cause widespread damage. I am not saying an ice storm is guaranteed, but I am saying the setup is there, and we need to watch it carefully. Storm number 3, the Friday and Saturday event. All right, here we go. This is the one that could end up being the most significant of the entire stretch, and I want you to lock in for this section because the details matter. By Friday, yet another trough is going to be barreling over the Rocky Mountains. A low-pressure system is expected to develop somewhere over Colorado and New Mexico, And as it moves northeast, it is going to tap into all that Gulf moisture that has been surging northward. The combination of a deepening low pressure, strong wind shear at multiple levels of the atmosphere, and abundant instability from the warm, moist air is going to create what meteorologists call a turbulent mixing environment. That is when cold air aloft crashes into warm air near the surface, and it supercharges thunderstorm development. Friday, I am watching the Ozarks, the Mississippi Valley, the Central and Southern Plains. This is a wide threat area stretching from Minnesota and Iowa all the way down into Texas. The Storm Prediction Center has not issued specific outlooks this far out yet, but based on the pattern, I would not be surprised to see a moderate or even high risk issued for parts of this region as we get closer. Here is the specific timing for Friday. In the Central Plains, Kansas, Oklahoma, and northern Texas, the severe weather window opens in the early afternoon, probably around 2 or 3 in the afternoon Central Time. This is when surface heating will be at its peak and storms will begin to initiate along the boundary between the warm and cold air masses. By late afternoon and evening, the threat shifts eastward into Missouri, Arkansas, the Ozarks, and the Mississippi Valley. This is typically when storms become most organized and the tornado threat peaks. If you live in these areas, Friday evening is when you need to be in your safe room with your weather radio on. Into the overnight hours, the severe weather threat extends into the lower Mississippi Valley, potentially affecting parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and western Tennessee. Overnight tornado events are particularly dangerous because people are asleep and less likely to hear warnings. If you live in Tornado Alley or the southeast, I cannot stress this enough. Have multiple ways to receive severe weather warnings: a weather radio, a phone app, a local television station. Do not rely on just one source. Saturday could see continuing severe weather as the system moves eastward, though the exact details are still uncertain at this range. But the potential is there for another day of damaging winds, hail, and possible tornadoes. And then there is next weekend, April 5th and 6th. The models are showing multiple additional storms making their way over the Rockies. This pattern is relentless. We could be looking at severe weather from this Monday all the way through the following Monday. That is a full week of active, severe weather, and it could extend even further based on what the Arctic Oscillation data is telling us. Now let me give you the complete regional breakdown because I know many of you are watching this, trying to figure out exactly what your city is going to experience. I am going to work through this region by region, and I am going to include temperature projections, timing, and specific threats. Starting with the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Portland, Olympia, Eugene, Salem. You are actually going to be on the quieter side of this pattern. The troughs that are causing all the severe weather in the middle of the country will bring some showers and mountain snow to Washington and Oregon, but nothing severe. Current temperatures have Seattle at 38 degrees, Portland at 39, Eugene at 31, and Olympia at 29. Expect some rain and snow showers this weekend, but your biggest concern will be cooler than normal temperatures rather than severe weather. You are going to get some of this rainfall, though, and Northern California could see some precipitation as well. Moving to the Northern Rockies and Northern Plains, Billings, Montana is at 26 degrees, Bozeman 27, Helena 28, Missoula just 22, Casper, Wyoming 33, Rapid City, South Dakota 28, Bismarck, North Dakota 18, Fargo 21 with light snow. These areas are going to see the cold side of each storm system. Temperatures will fluctuate wildly, surging into the 50s and 60s ahead of each storm before crashing back into the teens and 20s after the cold fronts pass. Snow is possible with the second and third storm systems, especially across the Dakotas, Montana, and northern Wyoming. The upper Midwest. This is ground zero for the first storm system on Monday night and Tuesday. Minneapolis is currently at 28 degrees, St. Paul 33, Rochester, Minnesota 32, Duluth 25, Eau Claire 29, La Crosse 33, Madison, Wisconsin 31, Milwaukee 30, Green Bay 26, Appleton 28. Ahead of the Tuesday storm, temperatures in this region are going to rocket into the 60s and possibly even the low 70s. That warmth, combined with increasing moisture and strong wind shear, is going to create a dangerous, severe weather setup. Large hail of golf ball size or larger is possible, along with damaging wind gusts exceeding 60 miles per hour. There is also a tornado risk, particularly from late Tuesday afternoon through Tuesday evening. The Great Lakes region. Chicago 33, Detroit 29, Cleveland 31, Grand Rapids 29, Lansing 26, Ann Arbor 30, Toledo 32, Fort Wayne 34, South Bend 34. The Tuesday storm system is going to sweep through this region Tuesday afternoon into Tuesday night. Expect a line of severe thunderstorms with damaging winds as the primary threat. Behind the front, temperatures will crash into the 20s and 30s by Wednesday morning. The second and third storm systems later in the week will bring additional rounds of rain, potentially heavy, and the risk of flooding is elevated given the saturated ground. The Ohio Valley. This region has been a focal point for severe weather over the past week, and it is going to stay in the crosshairs. Indianapolis 43 with drizzle, Cincinnati 41, Columbus 35, Dayton 38, Louisville 49, Lexington, Kentucky 42 with light rain, Charleston, West Virginia 47 with light rain, Evansville 44. The Tuesday storm will bring scattered to numerous severe storms through this region Tuesday evening into overnight. The second storm system on Thursday and Friday could bring heavy rainfall of 3 to 5 inches, leading to flash flooding and river flooding. The cold blasts behind each front will bring frost and freeze conditions, so if you have already started planting, be ready to cover everything. The Central Plains, Kansas City 44, Topeka 39, Wichita 41, Omaha 35, Lincoln, Nebraska 37, Des Moines 36, Salina, Kansas 40. This region is going to see the most dramatic temperature swings of the entire event. Ahead of the Tuesday storm, expect temperatures to surge into the 80s. Dallas was at 71 this morning, and it is going to get even warmer. After the first cold front, temperatures drop into the 40s, then they warm back up into the 70s ahead of the Friday storm, only to crash again. This roller coaster is the hallmark of an active, severe weather pattern, and it is going to continue for at least 10 days. The Southern Plains, Dallas 71, Fort Worth 71, Oklahoma City 44 with light rain and fog, Tulsa 51, Wichita Falls 53, Lubbock 46, Amarillo 42, Austin 71, San Antonio 70, Waco 71. This region is in the crosshairs for multiple severe weather events. The Tuesday system could bring severe storms from Oklahoma into Texas during the afternoon and evening hours. The Thursday and Friday system looks even more threatening for this region, with all hazards on the table including damaging winds, very large hail, and tornadoes. The Good Friday weekend storm, as some forecasters are calling it, could be particularly impactful for Oklahoma and North Texas. The Deep South, Atlanta 72, Birmingham 71, Nashville 71, Memphis 63, Jackson, Mississippi 72, Montgomery 71, Tuscaloosa 73, Huntsville 70, Chattanooga 74, Knoxville 74, Little Rock 73. This region is going to be warm and humid through much of next week, providing the fuel for severe storms. The Wednesday transitional period could bring scattered severe weather from Mississippi through Alabama and into Georgia. The Friday and Saturday event could bring more widespread severe weather as the third storm system moves through. Heavy rainfall is a major concern here, with the potential for 5 to 8 inches in the hardest hit areas. The southeast coast. Jacksonville, Florida 76, Savannah 64, Charleston, South Carolina 79, Charlotte 72, Raleigh 73, Wilmington, North Carolina 74, Myrtle Beach 77, Columbia, South Carolina 76, Augusta, Georgia 76. And now here is the unfortunate news for Florida and Georgia. The drought conditions that have been building are only going to get worse with this pattern. The ridge that sets up over the southeast is going to keep most of the rain to your north and west. Tallahassee is at 70, Tampa 76, Miami 81, Fort Myers 80, and Key West 79. While you will see some showers, it is not going to be enough to make a dent in the drought. In fact, fire weather conditions could become elevated across Georgia and South Carolina over the next several days, with critical fire risk already being flagged by the National Weather Service. The Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, Washington, D.C., 58 with light rain, Baltimore 57, Philadelphia 53, New York City 52, Newark 52, Boston 44, Hartford 45, Providence 47, Pittsburgh 39, Buffalo 29, Syracuse 29, Albany, 34. The mid-Atlantic could see severe storms on Wednesday as the first system moves through, with a threat area from Maryland and New Jersey southward into the Carolinas. The Northeast will mostly deal with cooler temperatures and some rain, but the wind behind these cold fronts will make it feel significantly colder than the thermometer reads. The Mountain West: Denver, 38 with clouds. Colorado Springs, 34 with drizzle and fog. Boulder, 39. Salt Lake City, 43. Albuquerque, 53. Santa Fe, 49. Boise, 38. These areas are going to be the launching pad for the storm systems as they eject over the Rockies. Expect periods of rain and snow in the mountains, with some significant snowfall possible at higher elevations. The western mountains have been running below average on snowpack, so this moisture will actually be beneficial. The desert Southwest: Phoenix, 74, Tucson, 72, Las Vegas, 72, Palm Springs, 73, Yuma, 74, El Paso, 63. These areas will remain mostly dry and warm, though not as extreme as the past week. The ridge weakening slightly should bring temperatures down from the 100-degree range back into the more manageable 70s and 80s. Now, I promised you at the beginning of this video that by the 5-minute mark you would know exactly when severe weather threatens your region, and I have delivered on that promise. But there is one more critical piece of information I need to share, and honestly, this might be the most important part of the entire video. So do not skip ahead. The cold air behind these storms is not just a brief cool down. The data from the Arctic Oscillation and the polar vortex split is telling us something that most weather outlets have not fully grasped yet. This cold pattern has legs. Multiple cold fronts are going to continuously push through the country from now through at least the middle of April. Each cold front brings a fresh shot of cold air, and each recovery period between fronts brings warm, moist air surging back north. That constant cycling between warm and cold is the perfect recipe for a prolonged severe weather season. Let me break down the cold specifically. After the first storm system on Tuesday, a cold front will sweep through the eastern half of the country by Wednesday. Temperatures behind this front will drop significantly. Cities that were in the 70s and 80s on Tuesday will be in the 40s and 50s by Wednesday afternoon. In the northern tier, overnight lows Wednesday night into Thursday morning could dip below freezing as far south as central Missouri and central Illinois. The second cold front arrives Thursday night into Friday, and this one packs an even bigger punch. Temperatures behind this front could be 15 to 20 degrees below average across the Central Plains and the Midwest. Wind chills will make it feel even worse. We are looking at wind chills in the teens and 20s across the northern plains, the upper Midwest, and the Great Lakes. If you have already put away your winter coat, you might want to dig it back out. And then the third cold front arrives over the weekend, reinforcing the cold and potentially bringing the coldest air of the entire stretch. This is the one connected to the second piece of the split polar vortex swinging back around, and the models are showing it could bring below freezing temperatures as far south as central Oklahoma and northern Arkansas. Now, I know that sounds alarming, and I want to be very clear about something. This is not a blizzard scenario for most of the country. We are not talking about feet of snow burying your city. What we are talking about is a persistent, active, severe weather pattern punctuated by dramatic cold snaps. The severe weather is the bigger threat for most people, followed by the flooding risk from heavy rainfall, followed by the agricultural impact of late-season freezes. And that brings me to another important point. If you are a farmer or a gardener, this pattern is a serious concern. Many areas across the southern plains, the Midwest, and the Ohio Valley have already started spring planting. The freezing temperatures that are coming could cause significant damage to early crops and budding fruit trees. If you have the ability to protect your plants, start making plans now. Let me talk about something else that is on my radar, and I think it is going to surprise some of you. Fire weather. I know we are talking about storms and rain and cold air, but between these storm systems, the air behind the cold fronts is very dry. Combined with gusty winds of 30 to 40 miles per hour, fire conditions are going to be elevated across the southern plains and even parts of the southeast where the drought has been intensifying. The National Weather Service has already issued red flag warnings across parts of the southern plains, and there is a critical fire risk flagged for areas of Georgia and South Carolina. The dry, cold fronts that push through without producing rain are particularly dangerous because they bring strong winds and very low humidity. If you live in a fire-prone area, please follow local burn bans and be extremely careful with any outdoor activities that could spark a fire. All right, let me now walk you through what the next 7 days look like on the future radar so you have a complete picture from today through next weekend. Today, Friday, the remnants of the severe weather event from yesterday are moving across the Ozarks and the East Coast. There is some rain and thunderstorms continuing through the daytime, but nothing significant in terms of severe weather. The cold front from yesterday's system is dropping temperatures across the Ohio Valley and Midwest dramatically. Some snow showers will develop across the upper peninsula of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, and could even reach as far south as Cleveland and parts of Indiana by this evening. These snow bursts could be briefly heavy but will not amount to significant accumulation for most locations. Saturday, high pressure builds across the central and eastern United States. Most of the country will see pleasant conditions. This is your day to get outside and enjoy it. The only trouble spot will be the Pacific Northwest, where some showers and mountain snow will make things a bit damp. Temperatures will be cool across the north but comfortable across the south. Sunday, even quieter. This is going to be the least miserable day of the entire week ahead. Most of the country is going to be pleasant with dry conditions and comfortable temperatures. Enjoy it because it is the last calm day for a while. Monday, the first storm system starts to organize over the northern Rockies and the Dakotas. Through the day, it will slowly move into Montana and North Dakota, bringing snow to Canada. By late Monday afternoon and evening, thunderstorms could begin developing across the upper Midwest. This is the sneaky, severe weather threat I mentioned earlier. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and Illinois should be on alert Monday evening. Tuesday, the storm system intensifies north of the Great Lakes. Severe weather expands from Michigan to Texas. Ahead of the cold front, temperatures will surge to near record levels. Behind the front, a dramatic cooldown begins. This is likely going to be the first significant severe weather day of the stretch, with all hazards possible, including damaging winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour, hail up to golf ball size or larger, and the potential for tornadoes across a wide area. Wednesday, April 1st. The storm moves toward the East Coast. Scattered severe weather is possible from the mid-Atlantic down into the deep south. 2 distinct threat areas will exist, one near Maryland, New Jersey, and the Carolinas, and another across the deep south from Mississippi through Alabama and into Georgia. Behind the cold front, temperatures crash across the Midwest and Ohio Valley. Frost and freeze conditions are likely overnight Wednesday into Thursday across a wide portion of the northern United States. Thursday, a transitional day. Moisture begins surging back north from the Gulf. The southern plains could see thunderstorms developing in the afternoon as the next trough approaches. This is the reload day and the atmosphere is getting set for the second major event. Friday, April 4th. The second major storm system erupts across the central United States. This is the storm that forecasters are calling the Good Friday storm, and it has the potential to be more significant than the Tuesday event. The trough is deeper, the jet stream is stronger, and the moisture return is more robust. Severe weather is expected from Minnesota and Iowa all the way down to Texas and Louisiana. All hazards will be on the table, with the tornado threat potentially elevated, particularly across Oklahoma, Arkansas, and the lower Mississippi Valley. Heavy rainfall of 3 to 5 inches is expected across a wide area, with localized amounts approaching 8 inches. Flash flooding and river flooding are serious concerns. Saturday and Sunday, the system continues to push east while another storm develops behind it. The details are uncertain at this range, but the pattern strongly supports continuing severe weather through next weekend and potentially into the following week. Now, I want to circle back to something I said earlier because it is worth repeating. The polar vortex split is the underlying driver of this entire pattern, and the data is showing that the cold air injections are going to persist well into mid-April. This means the severe weather season is not going to take a break after this initial storm train passes. We could very well see a repeat of this pattern with additional storm trains developing in the second and third weeks of April. Here is what I want you to take away from this entire forecast. First, this weekend is your preparation window. The weather is calm, the storms have not arrived yet, and you have time to get ready. Make sure your severe weather kit is in order. Fresh batteries in your weather radio, flashlights, a plan for where you and your family will shelter if a tornado warning is issued. If you have a storm shelter or a basement, make sure it is accessible and not blocked by clutter. Second, know your risk days. For the upper Midwest, it is Monday night and Tuesday. For the Central Plains and Ohio Valley, it is Tuesday and then again Friday. For the Southern Plains, it is Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. For the Deep South, it is Wednesday and Friday into Saturday. For the Mid-Atlantic, it is Wednesday. And for everyone, the cold blasts between storms are going to be significant. Third, heavy rainfall flooding is a serious secondary threat. If you live in a flood-prone area anywhere from Oklahoma through the Ohio Valley, take this seriously. 5 to 8 inches of rain in the hardest hit areas is going to cause problems, and the ground is already saturated in many locations from recent rainfall. Fourth, and this is something that people often overlook, the overnight tornado risk is real. The Friday night into Saturday storm system has the potential to produce tornadoes after dark across the lower Mississippi Valley. Nighttime tornadoes are 2.5 times more deadly than daytime tornadoes because people are less aware. Please have a way to receive alerts while you sleep. And fifth, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We are not talking about one bad day of weather. We are talking about a 10-day to 2-week stretch of active severe weather with multiple significant events. Pace yourself, stay informed, and do not let your guard down between storms. Let me give you one more detailed temperature snapshot for the cities I have not covered yet so you have a complete picture of where we stand right now before this pattern change kicks in. Across the Appalachians, Asheville, North Carolina 74, Knoxville, Tennessee 74, Roanoke, Virginia 74, Charleston, West Virginia 47 with light rain, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania 39. These mountain cities are going to see some of the most dramatic temperature swings as the cold fronts push through. Asheville could go from the mid-70s to the upper 30s in less than 24 hours with the first front. Across the Gulf Coast, Mobile, Alabama 70 degrees with fog, Biloxi, Mississippi 68, Gulfport 73, Pensacola 66 with fog, Panama City 69, New Orleans 73, Baton Rouge 75, Lake Charles 72, Beaumont, Texas 72, Galveston 76, Corpus Christi 76. These Gulf Coast cities are the moisture source for all the severe weather inland. The warm, humid air streaming off the Gulf is what fuels the thunderstorms. And as long as water temperatures remain warm, which they will, the moisture supply will not shut off. Across the Texas corridor, Brownsville 81, McAllen 78, Laredo 74, San Angelo 63, Midland 54, Abilene 56, Wichita Falls 53, Sherman 70, Tyler 72, Longview 72, Texarkana 73. The temperature gradient across Texas right now is remarkable. You have the low 80s down along the border and the mid-40s up in the panhandle. That kind of spread across a single state is a neon sign that the atmosphere is primed for severe weather in the Mountain West interior. Albuquerque 53, Santa Fe 49, El Paso 63, Las Cruces 65, Roswell 53, Flagstaff 50, Prescott 57, Grand Junction 55, Durango 49, Moab 44. These areas will see the front side of each trough passage with gusty winds and some precipitation, but the severe weather will stay to the east. Now here's what is coming in the next video update, and I need you to hear this. As these storm systems evolve over the weekend, the models are going to sharpen up significantly. Right now, we are working with the broad brush strokes of the pattern. By Monday, we will have much more specific detail on exactly where the storms will track, what time severe weather will begin in each city, and whether the tornado threat is going to be isolated or widespread. That next update is going to be absolutely critical for your planning, and you do not want to miss it. I am also going to be tracking something that could develop after the initial storm train passes. There is a signal in the extended range models for a potentially significant storm system around April 8th through the 10th. It is too far out to have high confidence in the details, but the pattern supports it. And if the polar vortex reinforcement happens on schedule, that system could rival or exceed anything we see next week. I will have much more on that in the coming days. So here is what I need you to do right now. First, share this video with someone you care about who lives in the threat areas. They need to see this. Second, comment below with your city and state so I know where to focus the next update. Third, make sure you have notifications turned on so you do not miss the next forecast when these storms start developing in real time. And fourth, if you have been through severe weather before, share your experience in the comments. Your story could help someone else prepare, and this community is strongest when we look out for each other. The storm train is loaded, the pattern is locked in, and the next 10 days are going to be a test for a huge portion of this country. But here's the thing, we have advance warning. We have time to prepare, and we have the information we need to make smart decisions. That is the advantage of modern meteorology. 50 years ago, we would not have seen this coming until it was already on top of us. Today, we have a full week of lead time, and that is invaluable. Stay safe out there, keep watching the sky, and remember, no storm lasts forever, but being prepared can make all the difference. I will see you in the next update. And trust me, you are going to want to be here for that one because the models are about to drop some very specific and very important details about exactly where the worst of this severe weather is going to unfold. Do not miss it. Now, before I let you go, I want to do something I do not normally do. I want to go back and give you an even deeper breakdown of each storm system because I realize that some of you are just now tuning in and might have missed some of the critical details. And for those of you who have been here from the beginning, this repetition is intentional. When it comes to severe weather, hearing the information twice could save your life. Let us revisit the timeline one more time with even more specificity. This Saturday evening, the entire country east of the Rockies is going to be quiet and peaceful. Temperatures across the southern states will be in the 60s and 70s. Savannah, Georgia, 64 degrees, Macon, 76, Augusta, 76, Valdosta, 74, Tallahassee, 70, Jacksonville, 76, all comfortable, all calm. The northern tier will be chilly but dry. Marquette, Michigan, just 23 degrees. Traverse City, 23. Iron Mountain, 26. Alpena, 21. International Falls, Minnesota, a brutally cold 14 degrees. Bemidji, 17 with light snow. These frigid temperatures in the north are a remnant of the current cold pattern, and they are actually part of what makes Monday and Tuesday so dangerous. When warm air rushes north to replace this cold air, the temperature contrast creates explosive instability. Sunday is going to be a carbon copy of Saturday for most people. Clear skies, light winds, pleasant temperatures. If you have been waiting for a good day to check your storm shelter, clean out the basement, or test your weather radio, Sunday is your day. I cannot stress this enough. Preparation done on a calm day is worth 10 times the panicked preparation done when sirens are already going off. Now, I want to add something here that I did not cover in detail earlier. The wind shear profile for next week is extraordinary. Wind shear is the change in wind speed and direction as you go up through the atmosphere, and it is one of the key ingredients for tornado development. The models are showing wind shear values next week that rival some of the most significant severe weather events in recent memory. On Tuesday, the 0 to 6 kilometer shear values are forecast to be in the range of 40 to 60 knots across a wide area of the Central Plains and the Mississippi Valley. For context, 30 knots of deep layer shear is usually enough to support supercell thunderstorms. 40 to 60 knots is in the range where supercells become dominant and long-track tornadoes become possible. The low-level shear, which is the change in winds from the surface to about 3,000 feet up, is also looking impressive. 0 to 1 kilometer shear values of 20 to 30 knots are forecast across parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, and the lower Mississippi Valley on Tuesday and especially on Friday. Strong low-level shear is what helps thunderstorms develop rotation near the ground, and that is the mechanism that produces tornadoes. When you combine strong deep layer shear with strong low-level shear and abundant instability from a warm, moist air mass, you get a setup that is capable of producing intense and long-lived tornadoes. I am not trying to alarm anyone. I am trying to make sure you understand why meteorologists are taking this pattern seriously. Let me also expand on the flooding threat because I think it deserves more attention than it is getting. 5 to 8 inches of rain in the bullseye zone is a staggering amount. To put that in perspective, an inch of rain over 1 square mile equals 17.4 million gallons of water. Now multiply that by 5 to 8 inches over an area that spans hundreds of square miles. We are talking about billions of gallons of water hitting the ground in a concentrated area over a short period. Rivers and streams in the affected areas are going to rise rapidly. For those of you along the Ohio River, the Mississippi River, the Arkansas River, and their tributaries, river flooding is a real concern heading into the second week of April. The ground in many of these areas is already saturated from recent rainfall events, which means the soil cannot absorb much additional moisture. Almost all of the new rainfall is going to run off directly into waterways. If you live in a floodplain or near a body of water that has flooded in the past, please take this seriously. Know your evacuation routes, know where higher ground is, and do not wait until water is at your doorstep to make a decision. Flash flooding is even more immediately dangerous. When 3 to 4 inches of rain falls in just 2 or 3 hours, which is entirely possible with the training thunderstorms expected next week, low-lying roads, underpasses, and creek crossings can become deadly traps in minutes. Turn around, do not drown. That is not just a catchy phrase. It is a survival rule. Just 6 inches of moving water can knock you off your feet, and 12 inches of moving water can carry away a small car. 2 feet of moving water can float almost any vehicle, including trucks and sport utility vehicles. Now let me circle back to the temperature forecast because I want to make sure every region of the country understands what is coming. For the Northeast, here is what your week looks like. You start the week cool and dry. Monday will see temperatures in the 30s and 40s from Maine to Pennsylvania. New York City will warm into the upper 40s and low 50s. Boston will be in the low to mid 40s. By Tuesday, a warm surge ahead of the first storm system could push temperatures into the 50s and low 60s across the mid-Atlantic and the 50s across southern New England. That warmth will be short-lived. By Wednesday evening, the cold front crashes through and temperatures drop back into the 30s and 40s. Thursday and Friday will be cool, with overnight lows dipping near or below freezing in the interior Northeast. Saturday could see a brief warm-up before the third cold front arrives Sunday. For New England specifically, Burlington, Vermont is currently at 26 degrees, Montpelier 24, Concord, New Hampshire 38, Portland, Maine 36, Bangor 34. These areas are going to stay on the cold side of each storm system. Accumulating snow is not out of the question with the strongest cold fronts, particularly at higher elevations in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. The ski areas might actually see some late-season snow refreshment, which is not typical for early April but fits with this pattern. For the Southeast, the week is going to feel like a battle between summer and winter. Monday and Tuesday will be warm and increasingly humid. Atlanta could reach the low 80s, Birmingham the upper 70s, Nashville the mid-70s, Charlotte the upper 70s. With dew points climbing into the 60s, it is going to feel sticky and uncomfortable. That humidity is the fuel. When the cold fronts arrive, the contrast between the warm, moist air and the cold, dry air is what generates the severe weather. After each cold front passes, expect a refreshing but brief cool down with temperatures in the 50s and 60s before the warmth returns. For Florida, the outlook is frustrating if you are hoping for rain. The ridge pattern keeps the best rain chances to your north. Orlando 77, Tampa 76, Miami 81, Fort Lauderdale 80, Jacksonville 76, Key West 79, Daytona Beach 77, Sarasota 79. You will see a few scattered showers, particularly across the Panhandle in North Florida, but South and Central Florida are going to remain dry and warm. The drought situation in Florida is worsening, and this pattern is not going to provide relief. For Texas, buckle up because your state is going to see the full spectrum of weather next week. The Rio Grande Valley with Brownsville at 81 and McAllen at 78 will stay warm and mostly dry. Central Texas with Austin at 71, San Antonio at 70, and Waco at 71 will see severe storms Tuesday and possibly again Thursday and Friday. North Texas with Dallas at 71, Fort Worth at 71, and Wichita Falls at 53 is right in the sweet spot for multiple severe weather events. The Panhandle with Amarillo at 42 and Lubbock at 46 will see the dramatic temperature swings and could even see some light snow behind the strongest cold fronts. West Texas with Midland at 54 and El Paso at 63 will be on the drier side but will feel the wind from the passing troughs. For the mountain states, the story is snow in the high country and wind in the valleys. Colorado Springs is at 34 with drizzle and fog right now. Denver 38 with clouds, Aspen 43, Breckenridge 27, Pueblo 44, Fort Collins 41. These areas will see snow at higher elevations with each trough passage, and strong downslope winds could develop east of the Rockies. Salt Lake City at 43, Provo at 47, and Ogden at 42 will see a similar pattern with mountain snow and valley rain. The snowpack in the Rockies has been below average this season, so any additional snow is welcome for water supply. I also want to mention something about the agricultural impact of this pattern. Across the southern plains and the lower Mississippi Valley, wheat crops are in a critical stage of development. Extended freezing temperatures below 28 degrees can cause significant damage to wheat in the jointing stage, which is where much of the winter wheat crop currently is. Cotton planting has begun in parts of South Texas, and the freezing temperatures expected behind the second and third cold fronts could damage or kill early planted cotton. Fruit trees across the Midwest and the Mid-South that have already started blooming are particularly vulnerable. A hard freeze after blooming can wipe out an entire season's fruit crop in a single night. If you are a farmer or an orchardist, contact your local agricultural extension office for the latest guidance on protecting your crops. Now let me address something that I know a lot of you are thinking. You are wondering whether this is unusual. Is this normal for early April? The answer is yes and no. Active severe weather patterns in early April are not unusual. This is the beginning of peak tornado season, and patterns that produce multiple storm systems are something we see every spring. What is unusual about this particular setup is the combination of factors. The polar vortex split contributing to persistent cold air intrusions, the above-average Gulf of Mexico sea surface temperatures providing enhanced moisture, and the strength and persistence of the troughing along the west coast. When all of these factors come together, the result is a severe weather season that could be more active and more prolonged than average. Now here is what is unusual about this particular setup, and this is the detail that separates what we are about to experience from a normal spring pattern. The jet stream at 18,000 feet is going to completely reorganize. Right now, the upper-level flow across the country is mostly flat, moving from west to east without much waviness. That is why we have been relatively quiet. But as the trough digs down along the west coast, the jet stream is going to buckle dramatically. Instead of flowing in a gentle curve, it is going to plunge southward over the western states and then shoot northward across the middle of the country before spiking up over the eastern United States. Think of it this way. Right now, the jet stream looks like a gently rolling highway. By next Wednesday, it is going to look like a roller coaster with steep dips and sharp climbs. Every time the jet stream dips, it brings cold air southward. Every time it spikes upward, it pulls warm air northward. And right where those two air masses collide, that is where the severe weather fires. The Euro Ensemble model, which is one of the best long-range forecasting tools available, is showing this pattern holding strong through at least the first full week of April. And when I say strong, I mean the confidence level is high. This is not a wishy-washy signal buried in the noise. This is a clear, robust, well-defined pattern change that all the major models agree on. When the European model, the American model, and the Canadian model all agree on a pattern 7 to 10 days in advance, you pay attention. And here is the part that makes the second week of April potentially even more concerning. The European ensemble is showing signals that the trough along the west coast could actually deepen further as we move past the initial storm train. If that happens, the second week of April could feature storms that are even stronger and more organized than what we see in the first week. I am not saying that is guaranteed. Extended range forecasting always carries uncertainty, but the signal is there and it is consistent across multiple model runs. Now, I also want to give you some perspective on what happened yesterday, because understanding what just occurred helps frame what is coming. Yesterday's severe weather event across the Midwest and Ohio Valley was a significant one. We may not have had many tornadoes, but that does not mean it was not dangerous. We recorded over 110 hail reports, some with very large hail. We had almost 60 wind damage reports across several states. There were tornado-warned cells that pushed through Indiana, Ohio, and all the way into far western Pennsylvania. The National Weather Service is surveying possible tornado damage in at least 2 locations, one in Ohio and one in Indiana. If those are confirmed, they will be added to the official record. The reason I bring up yesterday is this. Yesterday's event was produced by a relatively modest storm system. The storms we are expecting next week will have significantly more energy to work with, more moisture, more wind shear, more instability. If yesterday produced over 110 hail reports and nearly 60 wind damage reports with a moderate setup, imagine what a significantly stronger setup could produce. That is why preparation matters. That is why I am spending this much time walking you through every detail. And for those of you in cities I have not specifically mentioned yet, let me cover a few more areas to make sure nobody is left out. Across central Pennsylvania, State College 41 degrees, Altoona 42, Johnstown 41, Williamsport area in the mid-30s, Harrisburg 45, Lancaster 47. You will feel the cold fronts strongly, and while severe weather risk is lower for you compared to areas further south and west, the wind behind the fronts will be gusty and the temperature drops will be dramatic. In the Finger Lakes in upstate New York, Syracuse 29, Rochester 27, Ithaca 26, Binghamton 27, Utica 29, Watertown area around 24. Your region is going to see the cold side of each system with periodic snow showers and flurries, especially in the lake effect belts. Do not be surprised if you see snow on the ground a few mornings next week. Along the Gulf Coast of Mississippi and Alabama, Bay St. Louis 70, Pascagoula 68, Gautier 68, Biloxi 68, Gulfport 73, Daphne 70 with fog, Mobile 70 with fog. These coastal communities need to watch for the potential for waterspouts transitioning onshore as the frontal boundaries interact with the warm Gulf waters. Any severe weather event that tracks through this region could also bring brief coastal flooding from strong onshore winds. In the high plains of Kansas and Nebraska, Garden City 40, Dodge City 40, Goodland 37, Hayes 39, Grand Island 27, North Platte 40, Scottsbluff 37, Kearney 38. These communities sit right in the transition zone where warm air meets cold air during each frontal passage. Large hail is the primary severe weather threat for the high plains, and the Tuesday and Friday events both have the potential to drop baseball-sized hail in this region. Down in the Rio Grande Valley in deep South Texas, Brownsville 81, McAllen 78, Laredo 74, Harlingen area in the upper 70s. These areas will remain warm and mostly south of the primary severe weather threat, but should not let their guard down entirely. The Tuesday system could push severe storms far enough south to clip the northern fringes of the valley, and out in the western valleys, Boise, Idaho 38, Nampa 34, Twin Falls area in the mid-30s, Pocatello 31. These areas will see the approach of each trough with gusty winds, some rain and mountain snow, but the severe weather will stay east of the Continental Divide. I expect that when we look back on April of this year, it is going to stand out as one of the more active Aprils in recent memory. Let me also walk you through what this pattern means for some of the smaller cities and communities that do not always get mentioned in national forecasts. Because severe weather does not just hit big cities, it hits everywhere. In the Ozarks region, Branson, Missouri is at 50 degrees right now, Springfield, Missouri 46 with light rain, Joplin 44, Fayetteville, Arkansas 54 with light rain, Bentonville 51, Fort Smith 64. This entire region is squarely in the path of the Friday storm system. The Ozarks are particularly vulnerable to flash flooding because of the steep terrain, narrow valleys, and numerous creeks and rivers that can rise rapidly. If you live in this area, the Friday event is the one to watch most closely. Across the Mississippi Delta, Jackson, Mississippi 72, Hattiesburg 72, Vicksburg 70, Tupelo 71, Meridian 71, Batesville 70. The Delta region could see severe weather with both the Wednesday transition event and the Friday through Saturday event. The flat terrain here is favorable for tornado development when conditions are right, and the Friday overnight tornado risk I mentioned earlier applies directly to this area. In the Tennessee Valley, Huntsville, Alabama 70, Florence 72, Decatur area is cooler at 35, Chattanooga 74, Cookeville 67, Murfreesboro 71. This corridor from Huntsville through Chattanooga has a well-documented history of significant severe weather events in early April. The terrain features, including the Cumberland Plateau and the surrounding valleys, can interact with severe thunderstorms in ways that enhance tornado intensity. If you live here, make sure you have your safe room identified and easily accessible. Across the Carolinas, Charlotte 72, Raleigh 73, Greensboro 74, Greenville, South Carolina 75, Asheville 74, Wilmington 74, Columbia 76, Fayetteville 75. The Carolinas will primarily be impacted by the Wednesday event as the first storm system pushes through, but the Friday and Saturday systems could also bring severe weather depending on how the pattern evolves. Fire weather is also a concern across the western Carolinas where the drought has been building. In the upper Great Plains, Sioux Falls, South Dakota 32, Sioux City, Iowa 22, Yankton 34, Brookings 32, Pierre 25. These communities will see snow with the second and third storm systems, and the wind chills behind the cold fronts will be brutal, potentially dropping to single digits or below zero. Ranchers in this region need to be aware that livestock exposed to these conditions will need additional shelter and feed. Across the Ohio River Valley, Evansville, Indiana 44, Owensboro, Kentucky 49, Paducah 47, Bowling Green 65, Hopkinsville 63, Louisville 49. This stretch of the Ohio Valley is in the crosshairs for heavy rainfall and potential flooding. The Ohio River and its tributaries could see rapid rises by the end of next week, especially after the Friday through Saturday rainfall event. For the Virginia Valley, Roanoke 74, Lynchburg 73, Staunton 65, Harrisonburg 63, Charlottesville 67, Winchester area around 54 degrees. This beautiful valley corridor will feel the cold fronts strongly, with temperatures swinging from the 70s into the 30s and 40s. Some frost is possible in the valley bottoms after the second and third cold fronts, which is a concern for the apple orchards and vineyards that are common in this region. One more thing I want to leave you with, and this is personal. I have been covering weather for a long time, and I have learned that the difference between tragedy and survival almost always comes down to preparation and awareness. The people who get through severe weather events are the ones who had a plan before the storms arrived. They knew where to shelter. They had multiple ways to receive warnings. They did not wait until the last minute to take action. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. Use this weekend to prepare. Talk to your family about what to do if a tornado warning is issued. Identify your safe room, whether that is a basement, an interior room on the lowest floor, or a storm shelter. Charge your devices. Get fresh batteries for your weather radio. Download a weather alert app on your phone. And most importantly, pay attention to the updates as we get closer to each storm system. I am going to be here every step of the way, breaking down the latest model runs, giving you the most up-to-date timing and threat information, and making sure you know exactly what to expect when these storms arrive. We are in this together. And here is what is coming in the very next video. The Monday model runs are going to give us the first high-resolution look at the Tuesday severe weather event. I am going to break down hour by hour when storms will fire, where the tornado threat is highest, and exactly what wind speeds and hail sizes are projected for each state. If you have been watching this video all the way to this point, you clearly care about being prepared, and that next video is going to give you the detail you need to stay safe. Make sure you do not miss it. Drop your